So happy Friday and happy New Year and happy everything. So today I just decided, hey, it's time for dinosaur tacos, like it's kind of a fiesta. We've had all these holidays and everything, and we're kind of getting back to normal, but I was like, I want something fun today. So everywhere I go, I could be at Home Depot, the gas station, there's, the airport bathroom, anywhere. I'm just doing my thing, and people are like, I like your shirt, and it just makes people happy and it makes me happy, and it's just fun, and we need more fun in our world. So we're going to continue with whatever part we're on, part 109 of tickets, concert tickets, autographs, and pictures. And it's given me ideas as I go through boxes and things. I'll continue to kind of add to this and everything. So let's see, a couple of new updates. So on a sad note, I noticed on Facebook Freddie White, who was the one of the original drummers for Earth, Wind, and Fire. There were three brothers, and he wasn't with the group very long. But as I was reading about it on Facebook, he was with them when he was 16 years old, and he died recently. He was only 67, so I don't know anymore. I haven't looked up anymore, but that's, as I just thought of it as I'm looking at my background and I see my Earth, Wind, and Fire albums. So again, really, all these great folks are leaving us, and so hopefully people, we can remember them and honor them and their contributions throughout history. So let's see. And also, I know you, Jasmine, had asked some questions in an email a while back, and I had it all prepared and written out, but it's upstairs, and I was running late this morning to get down here. So I don't know, during this session, if you have time, I know you're pretty tech savvy. If you want to look up that last email, it was back in December. But if not, we'll address it next week. But I know you had some questions, and I don't remember even what they were. But I was like, well, I like to tidy up old business. But let's press forward. So I'm going to share my screen. I know where we left off. Let's see. I'm going to share my screen first, and then I've got it all ready to go here. Slide number 107. Tim Jackson. Let's see. I'll make this. I don't want to make it too big because then sometimes I lose. I have difficulty. So I guess I'm just going to, hopefully this is big enough that you can see it. So we've talked about Tim Jackson before. So Tim Jackson is a really amazing tenor player. He's, as far as I know, still affiliated with WGI, which is Winter Guard International. He's once you turn 21, you can't participate in DCI or WGI, but you become an instructor. And he's been with a number of different groups. He went to Ohio State. And the cool thing is, to have a stick named after you and a practice pad named after you. These are tenors. We've talked about these before. I own these. They're not even made anymore. It was made by a company that's sort of not a good company, which we won't name. But basically, this is a set of tenors. And the cool thing I like about these tenors is you could use them for quints. So 5 drums, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then use this middle one. Or you can use the 2 side ones here, and that would be 6 drums. And so it's really cool. Instead of having to buy a set of practice pads that have 5 and a set that has 6, and kind of like I converted mine recently. I put that on there. Some of you watched it, where I actually converted my real tenors from 6 to 5, and golly, I'll never do that again. That was a beast. And depending on your system, it can be a much easier, but the particular carrier that I had was very difficult and complicated, but I wanted to be able to practice. If I'm going to be playing performances with 5, I don't want to be practicing with 6 because that middle drum, you've got two here and you're going to be hitting rims all the time. And you're going so fast. So it's really important to practice how you perform. So I love these pads because you can go either way is what the point I'm trying to make. Here's a picture of myself with Tim Jackson at a WGI event. And I think I told you this story before. I mentioned to him, I said, I'm still playing tenors. And he said, you're a beast. And I just thought that was great because tenors are rough. I mean, they're heavy, right? We already know that. I don't carry them around. I didn't tell him I don't carry them around. I just told him I'm still playing them, which I am still playing them, but I don't carry them anymore because, they're a beast. And people who play tenors are a little bit of gluttons for punishment because running around on a field with these crazy things and making it look easy is they're difficult. They're difficult to play when you're standing still, let alone running around, and they're heavy. So here's one of Tim Jackson's. This is when he played with the Blue Devils. This is when he did individual and ensemble, which is part of DCI, where you actually can sign up on your instrument to perform a solo. Not only does he have one set of tenors, he's got three, and he did some really cool stuff with this. So there's actually, if you just Google Tim Jackson and look up, he's got videos, and you could actually probably watch this. And I think we've done that one other time a while back. So yay for Tim Jackson. Yay for tenors. Moving on to Giovanni Hidalgo. So got a chance to meet him in 2019. I'm looking at the little drum head there, 2019. That was the last Percussive Arts Society conference I went to. And, this gentleman is my age, In fact, I think I'm a little older than him by a few months. But he is probably the world's best known conga player. He's got congas named after him. He is an amazing, I got to watch him perform at this particular PASIC. And the thing about him is he has a medical condition where his fingertips are, going away, basically. And so he's still playing, and with congas, you use your hands and your fingers, and he had his fingers all taped up, but he was playing amazing stuff. So Giovanni Hidalgo, amazing conga player, well, percussionist in general, but most notable for conga. Got his autograph, of course. David Garibaldi with Tower of Power. So here's David here. Here is Tower of Power. I got to see them this summer at Red Rocks, which was awesome. Here's a book that he wrote, which is a really great drum book. It's really, one of my favorites to play and teach out of. Why do I have a picture of a car? Well, when I got to meet him, it was at a clinic. It was at a small little music store, actually in Atlanta, in Stone Mountain. I heard he was coming into town, and I went to it, and I didn't have anything to write on. And the only thing in my car that I had was a pen that I always kind of keep for if I think of something, I write myself a little note. And the only thing I had was this brochure from, I think I had recently bought my Toyota SUV, and there was a brochure in the car. And that's all I had. I just ripped out a truck, and here's his signature. You can actually see it there, but it's kind of funny, it's all I had to write on, and we were in a music store, and they don't have anything. So he signed the truck, which was pretty cool. And why do I have a picture of a snare drum? Well, this is a piccolo snare drum. Piccolo meaning most snares are a certain depth. This one is smaller, so it has a higher pitch. And it's a David Garibaldi, and it's even got this little badge here that has his name, and it's actually numbered, and it'll tell you if you buy this, if you were drum number 1 or drum number 3042. I own one of these and have had it for a long time. It's made out of metal. So some snare drums are made out of wood. Some of them are made out of metal. Some of them have, we've talked about Akira Jimbo's that has a wooden hoop instead of metal. But I really do like having my piccolo snare. And for a long time, it was the exclusive snare that I would play on every gig. Now I have 5 or 6 or 8 or 10 different ones, all of which that have different purposes and sounds, but this one is my only piccolo ever owned, and I would never get rid of it. So I have a David Garibaldi piccolo snare, and it's blue. That came in other colors. That was another thing. This is sort of my favorite color. Kind of like your background, Jasmine, is that sort of my well, my favorite color is just ever so slightly more dark. It's kind of like this dinosaur. It's sort of like fluorescent blue, like electric blue, I guess is what you'd call it. So anyway, David Garibaldi. Oh, moving on to who's next? Rocco Prestia. So at that same little clinic, here it is, 2004, Galaxy Music. This is up in Stone Mountain, right off of Memorial Drive. Garibaldi with Rocco Prestia. Like I found out about it, like at the last minute, and I think I went after work, and it says standing room only, limited admission, and I don't think a lot of people knew because it really wasn't. It would have, if this would have been more publicized, it would have been packed, but there was nobody there really. So it was really cool to be able to talk to David Garibaldi and Rocco Prestia. They played. Here's a picture of Rocco, and Rocco was an amazing bass player. Actually, when I looked some of this up again, found out that he died in 2020, and he had written, and it took me a while to kind of figure this out. His signature here, he signs his name KYDA. And I looked this up when I prepared this, gosh, a month or 6 weeks or 2 months ago, and now I'm a little rusty on it. But he was on a transplant list for a really long time, and I think I've Googled him up, and one of them said kidney, and one of them said liver, and it might be both, but I think this had to do with they were raising money for his transplant, and so I think it's Kentucky. And I can't remember. I'm going to have to go back. I wish I would have remembered, but I did my homework before we pulled this thing together, and now it's been so long. But it had to do with that, and it had to do with his transplant and giving money to that organization to help him out. So great bass player. So Rocco, got to meet them both at the same time. And for some reason, I got Rocco to sign David Garibaldi's little, I don't know. I must have not had that little piece of paper. Probably when David signed the car, he probably was like, this poor lady needs something to sign stuff on. She's like pulling stuff out of her vehicle. So he probably gave me the card, and then I went to Rocco. So Rocco signs Garibaldi's little thing, and Garibaldi signed the car thing. So anyway, it makes for a great story, right? So moving on to Power. So here's one of the times I saw them. I saw them a bunch of times. This was one that was in Atlanta, and just a picture of their band. And again, like I said, just saw them recently this summer. Oh, before I forget, gosh, how did I looked down and I noticed I forgot to talk about the Bears. So gosh, before we get too far along, this is a good spot to hopefully you can still see me pretty well. We'll start with the little bear first. So he's still in his holiday attire. So little bear has an outfit on that says, "Let's get lit." And so this was his New Year's Eve outfit, and it's got like little he's wearing Christmas lights, let's get lit. I just thought that was cute. So somebody, again, probably dresses their guinea pig up in this. So yeah, I thought that was really cute. And the big bear, he's out of his holiday clothes, but because it's New Year and everybody's needs to worry about all the Christmas cookies and such that they ate, everybody's into fitness in January, or at least for a week or two. So he's wearing his karate outfit because he's started back in classes so that he can become more fit. So I love this little karate outfit. So he's doing his thing. The one is still partying, let's get lit, and this guy's like, oh, come on, man, we got to eat better and work out. So the other thing that's cool, I got to see you guys live in December when I was there, but the very next day when I went to Emory, my students presented me with some Steve Gadd sticks which I've never owned actually. They're black, and I probably never play with these because this wood would chip and I'd have little black flecks everywhere. But they got a special pen, a silver pen, and they all signed it. So I've got a pair of Steve Gadd sticks. That was so cool. And they signed it. And these I'm going to hang on the wall. So I have a lot of sticks that I could hang on the wall or should hang on the wall, but there's really no wall space. But these are going to make it on the wall. So let's see, back to where we were. Oh gosh, now we're starting down some local folks. So this was when I went to CSU, Colorado State University, recently for a little visit. And on the wall of the music building, which is now, used to be a building and now it's this huge complex. Well, it's a high school that turned into the music department. And so they have tons of rehearsal space and performance space. And gosh, great. We would have just loved it. Our building we loved, but this is in a whole new level. And so Otto Werner was our band director, one of our band directors for marching band and for jazz band. And this is a book that he wrote, which was, he always had this class, and it was one of the most popular classes on campus, and it was like the evolution of jazz. And he wrote the book, and we talked about the evolution of jazz. It was on I want to say it was an evening class. It was like a Tuesday night, once a week for 2 hours. And there was like, I'm not kidding, like 600 people in the class. It was one of the biggest classes on campus because, at that time there were 26,000 people who went to CSU. Now I'm sure there's 40,000 or something. But it was it was in an auditorium every week. And because he knew me, he would pick on me. So I'd try to be way up, being inconspicuous. And all of a sudden he'd come up with something and he's like, Karen, come down and, let's demonstrate whatever. And, I go down there. So it was kind of fun, but you just never knew what he was going to make you do or ask you or whatever. But this was really cool. I had him sign and he said, Karen, you were the first. Thanks, Otto Werner. So at the end of the class, or his book was brand new. He used to not have a book, and I guess he used somebody else's book, and then he decided, I'm going to write my own. I still have this book, and it's got pictures of all the jazz greats. And I guess I was the first person to ask him to sign it. So that was really cool that I got him to sign his book. And here's a picture of him. He was a drummer. And so he has since died, but it was cool to see his picture in the music department, in the new music department. And so along with that, William Runyon, who was one of my most favorite professors and conductors. He was our wind ensemble director. So Otto Werner did concert band, jazz band, and marching band, and William Runyon did sort of the wind ensemble, which was kind of a little bit more of an elite group than just general concert band. And it was a smaller group, and we tackled a little bit more challenging music. And I loved and respected him greatly, and he was very wise, and I still quote things that he said to this day. One was, when he got, you've got everybody with musical instruments and you're getting ready to start class and it's noisy. Well, when he would walk in and take the one step up to his podium during rehearsal, immediate silence, because it was showtime. It was time, and there was no lingering. People, come on, let's get started. None of that. This group just snapped into, immediate. And there was no talking throughout the rehearsal, but except by him. And so if you had to talk to your colleague or, quietly or whatever, it was, he ran it and that's why we were able to kind of tackle harder music and to be really professional. It was extremely professional. He would also, if you didn't have a pencil on your music stand, you were really big time trouble. And so one of the things that I remember him saying was, let's see, how does it go? If somebody didn't have a pencil on their music stand, let's say he made a change and everybody would get their pencil and, write on their music the change. Um, he would say, professionals write it down, beginners will remember, or something like that. Because a lot of people that were not very good musicians will be like, oh, I'll remember. Oh, I got that. They wouldn't write it down. But he kind of made it a point, like, the professionals write it down, and the novices, they'll remember. But they don't. So another thing that he said that I remember, and I think of these things still that I use with my students, so I can't remember them all right now, but they come up and they're very accurate and wise. And one of the other things that I really recall is, and I think this was what he was making the point about, we're musicians and we create in space. And just like an artist who has a canvas, you don't start with a dirty canvas. So, like, in other words, an artist has a clean canvas in which to begin. And when you're creating something that's audible, that's a sound, you don't start with a bunch of noises going on. So, like, complete silence, and then we would start. So he was, just stuff like that just stays with you. So William Runyon, who also has passed on. Here is a program. I have a million of them. I didn't save a lot of them. I only saved special ones, but this one I had signed by a couple of, himself, because I'd always had all these guests sign the programs. And finally, I think this would have been toward the end of my stay. Yeah, April, because I graduated in '86 in May. I was like, I want him to sign a program, because I had all these guests signed, and I really respected him. So he signed this program, and we had a guest as well that particular concert who signed. Another professor. Well, I played with the Fort Collins Symphony when I was at CSU, and they were a very professional group. I'm in here in this picture somewhere. This was the group that I think I've told the story before, where there was a concert where I was in a hurry going from one rehearsal to another, and I had packed my black clothes for the concert, or thought I did, in my backpack. And I was in a big hurry going from the music building to our concert. And I get to the concert and I'm changing quickly and everything. And I realize I didn't bring black shoes. Like, I had my tennis shoes, and so I had my whole black tux, and all I had was black socks. And so we walked onto the stage, like, the other people in my group, the other percussionists, sort of like, they said, you walk, like, I'll walk closer to the people and we'll walk on together. And once we kind of get out there, nobody can see what we're wearing down below anyway. And so I played the whole concert with no shoes on. So that was kind of a funny story. Whenever I see this picture, I think of that. Like, I don't know if this was the one where I had my shoes on or not. But I played in socks the whole time, walking around back there. Golly, I was just mortified when I realized I didn't have my shoes. I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? And they're like, well, hey, I'll just walk in front of you and we'll just walk together. And nobody noticed. Nobody afterwards came up and was like, Karen, I can't believe you didn't have shoes on. Nobody had any idea. But it felt really weird, running around back there. Of course, Evelyn Glennie plays with no shoes all the time. She doesn't even wear socks. She has bare feet. And so, I was kind of like, this was my Evelyn Glennie moment, But Fort Collins Symphony, I played with them a ton of times, and that was a really great experience. And William Schwartz, who was another one of our professors, and was he was conductor of a number of our groups. He was the reason I have him next to the Fort Collins Symphony. He was our director, not only at school at CSU, but the Fort Collins Symphony. Some people were asked to perform with them, and so I enjoyed that experience, and we got paid. So that was one of my gigs where it was like, you got paid for rehearsals, you got paid for the gig, and I actually ended up playing with the Cheyenne Symphony, which was right up the road in Wyoming, about 45 minutes, and got to play with them also, many seasons. So here's William Schwartz. We're getting into sort of the classical. I have a little notebook of music. I was notorious for collecting music after the performances, which is probably not a good thing. You're supposed to give the music back, but I made sure I always gave them a copy. So sometimes I would keep the original and have it signed, and I'd make a copy. And then when we turned our music back in, they got the copy. And we'd always have to erase all our markings and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, here's one that says, to Karen, best wishes, Francis Macbeth. So this was a composer, a guest composer who came. And gosh, I had him sign everything. I loved Francis Macbeth because he wrote great percussion for us. It wasn't that typical 3,000 measures and ding. We got really good parts. And so anything that he wrote, we loved because it was challenging and it was fun and we got to do a lot of stuff. And he wrote especially a lot for snare, which a lot of classical, you're playing a lot of timpani and triangle and tambourine, and nothing wrong with that, and mallets, but I wasn't really a big mallet player. I played enough to get by, but it wasn't my thing. So here's one of our concerts. And let's see, here's one that was to Karen, best wishes, Francis Macbeth. So this was in 1983. We had him come a number of times because our William Runyon liked him and I think it was his friend. And so we got to perform a lot of his works, and not only without him, but with him. He would come and we would have rehearsed it with our conductor, and then he would be there for the performance. We'd do like one rehearsal with him and then get to do the gig. And that was always really cool because a lot of times you get their perspective. Like the whole semester you're working on this particular piece and you're thinking one way, and then he gets there and he wants it faster or slower or totally different. And he's the one who wrote it. So it's really cool to get to, every conductor kind of takes liberties and interprets it their own way. And so we got different perspectives. Here's another one of his, you can tell this one, you can tell I'm not a mallet player. Look, I wrote the letters on the notes, C, F, G, E flat, mallet players don't have to do that. So, and this was a super easy part. I mean, it doesn't get any easier, but just because I didn't want to screw it up, it was Francis Macbeth. So I was writing those on there. So I wasn't going to make any errors. Here's his signature above that particular tune. And gosh, here's another one. I must have had a stack that I had him sign. Here he signed it again right above his name, and I still have these pieces with my original markings on them of what I played and all of that. So he made an impression on me because I was not a classical and am still not a real freak about that stuff. I'm much more of a jazz person. And so the fact that I even wanted his signature was a miracle. And then I had him sign every conceivable piece of paper. Let's see. Here's another many thanks for such fine playing, Robert Ward. So he was a guest, and I did look him up a bit in preparation for this, but honestly, I can't remember exactly where he was from and his background, but well known. And this was one of his pieces that we got to perform with him. John Painter was another one, so he wrote the Four Scottish Dances, and here's his signature. Okay, Norman Delajoyo. So he was another composer I loved, right up there with Francis Macbeth. And why did I love him? He wrote dark and kind of mysterious and kind of scary and dissonant and creepy. He didn't write happy classical like Mozart kinds of stuff or Bach kinds of stuff. It's happy, it's peppy. He wrote just like dun dun dun. It was like Halloween. It was like, and he would leave you hanging at the end. It would just be like, it would end, and you're like waiting for the resolution. He just had this way of writing this dark, scary stuff, and I love that. I always have loved um, certain scales that are like that. My spirit drum, I particularly got F minor because it's not happy happy. It's kind of dark and scary, which I just find so powerful, and especially in classical music, it's sort of just what I like. So Claude T. Smith was super important in concert literature, and I wrote up here, here's my writing from years ago. No autograph, but spoke with Arrow, Claude T. Smith, 1985 summer music camp, I don't know, something like that. So he wrote tons of compositions. Anybody who went to high school or college and played in a concert band has played something by Claude T. Smith. And Imperato Overture is a very popular, common piece that everybody's played. Most high schools or colleges for sure have played. And so I don't know why I didn't get his signature, but he was there, and we got to. He conducted pieces. Maybe it was just whatever the timing wasn't right. Poor Francis Macbeth signed everything, so maybe he sent something to Claude and said, "Hey, watch out, stay away from this girl because she's gonna make you sign everything." Okay, so that was Claude T. Smith. Moving on to, Robert Feliciano and Philip Windsor. Again, very well known. You could Google them and find out more. They were guests. We were just really fortunate that our music directors brought in guests. And I know it costs money to do that. And I think that's huge in a music department too. Even back then, with limited budget, it's very inspiring. I still remember this stuff. Like, we got to perform not only these people's work, but with them, and so I think we were ahead of the game back then. I don't know that a lot of colleges, had the ability to do that or took that upon themselves as a mission. But we had tons of guests, and golly, it was just really, really cool. And even for people, and maybe that's why I was inspired. I was a jazz person, and it was impressive to me to be able to do that. So here's another one of another guy that I love a lot, just like Norman Jello Joyo, Vaclav Nelibel. Again, very, very European, very dark, very mysterious, very powerful. And he wrote great stuff for drums. Look at here: tom tom, snare drum, tenor drum, bass drum. A lot of times, you get at the beginning of the semester, you get the music and you're like, okay, I'm going to be playing triangle on like 10 different songs, like, oh my gosh, but this, you look forward to. It's like, oh, we've got gong, we've got crash cymbals, we've got stuff to do, and you're usually running around playing multiple things and putting something down and picking something up, and that's fun and keeps you busy instead of just sitting there for an hour every rehearsal counting measures. You get good at counting measures, 1 2 3 4 2 2, and then your band director, okay, let's run that section again, right when you're getting ready for you got your triangle meter and you're like, oh, it's coming, I finally get my one. Ding, nope, we got to start over, let's do it again. And then class is over and you're just like, oh, it's a little painful. So here we go. Here's Vaclav Nelibel. You can read a little bit about it. His background, Czechoslovakia. So he had a lot of sort of European, well, he was European. So he wasn't an American composer. He was European. And so they have a whole different take on things. And he had a lot of really powerful, dark kinds of stuff, which I totally loved. Alfred Reed is another one who's like Claude T. Smith. Basically, if you played in a concert band, you played something of his. He wrote a lot of marches, and so very, very famous. And again, got a chance to, on probably multiple occasions, have him be our guest conductor. We're almost out of this classical little phase here. James, and I'm not sure of how he pronounces his name, but he was a guest, and I believe he played, I want to say, saxophone or something. No, he was an arranger. I can't recall. Oh yeah, sax. I see there's some everything saxophone on here. So he was a sax player and a composer, and he came in and got to conduct. Art Bartner. So Art Bartner was a guest. Well, Art Bartner also was of USC. That's his little USC suit on there. USC, the Marching Trojans. He was their Otto Werner. So Art Bartner was head of the marching band at USC, but he also was a recruiter for the All American College Marching Band at Disney. And, this is I told you the story before of driving across the country to go audition. Well, and this had been after the audition, I knew he was coming. And I can't remember. Let's see what year is on here. I could probably figure it out. Oh, this was 85. Well, this particular picture says 2019, but I didn't audition in 2019. I auditioned in, I think it was 85 or 86, but it was right around this time, but it was right after I had auditioned. It says, to Karen, great job for the concert. Maybe you should have gotten the Disney job. Best of luck always, Arthur Bartner. Oh, and remember I told you the story about my answer when asked, if you were gonna, because there were only three positions: snare, tenors, and bass. And, well, what if you were playing the bass drum? How would you feel about that? And my answer was wrong. Bad answer. Should have said, I'll play anything, sir. I'll play the triangle for you, But no, I learned a lesson on that one. Missed out on that. I might have had that experience, and bass drum was fun because they weren't just going boom, boom, boom. They were the All-American Marching Band. They get to play. They get to do fun, cool stuff, and they're entertaining. So I would have had a blast on anything. So anyway, that's a valuable lesson. You really want to not be too picky. Don't be too choosy. This was the actual poster right around the time, gosh, and it might even have where we went. Let's see, we went to Kansas City University. Yeah, I think this might have been it right here, February 22nd. This might have been the poster. So it might have been a little earlier, 83. But here's some picture of the different instruments. Here's the snare and cymbal. Here's the bass drum. And here's somebody playing like a little tenor thing with maybe a cowbell. And Jeff Kashawa from the Rippingtons actually was sax. I don't know if he was in this picture or if it was this year. I don't know if that's him, but I do know that he played right around the time I would have been doing it too. So that would have been really cool. But anyway, I think this might have been the actual poster because I do see Kansas City, Missouri, and that's where we went. And I'd have to go back. And if February 22nd, here's how I'll know. If February 22nd was the date that the shuttle blew up, then this is the poster and this is the year. If not, then it would have been a year later or something like that, because I remember telling you all that on the way, I'll never forget, in the Cadillac that we had to rent, we turned on the radio that morning. We were in Kansas City and it was on the radio that just then the shuttle it had blown up. And so I'll never forget where I was and what I was doing when I heard that news. So I could probably figure that out if this was the right year or day or whatever. But this was a poster similar to the one, if not the exact one, of the year that I did. We made that trek and we did do that audition. So Francisco Abar was he came from Mexico. He was actually a Mexican composer, conductor. And so I can't say a whole lot more about him, but he was one of our guests again, and I got his autograph, which is cool. Colonel Gabriel is another one like Claude T. Smith and Alfred Reed, was known for marching bands and that kind of thing. And so he was one of our guest conductors, and we played a bunch of marches with him, I'm sure. And I think he came a number of times. Let's see. This was a gentleman who was a patient of mine, and I know we have to be careful about talking about patients, but he did. This was way before HIPAA and all that kind of stuff. And what did I have him sign? My antimicrobial therapy. This was an important book that everybody carried in their pocket. Now it's an app on your phone, but if you want to look up a particular organism or infection and what antibiotic it would be best to treat it, was this book. And he happened to be in the hospital, and I was taking care of him at one point, and we started talking about music somehow, and he said he was a conductor and an organist, and this was way before the internet, so I couldn't look him up. But anyway, he signed this for Karen Newell in hopes she can fulfill all her goals with his name and date. So, you just never know. Like, you come across people in your life, and he was so happy. He liked having me as a caregiver because we would talk stuff other than just, how are you feeling today and how's it all going? And we would kind of talk a little bit about music, and so that was really exciting and cool. Moving on to, that's a perfect little transition to a medical person. So for some reason my nose is giving me trouble right now. Excuse me. So J. Willis Hurst is a very famous MD. He wrote the book about the heart, and he was at Emory for a long, long time. In fact, the little society group that I recently got to go to their graduation, my society, I was a society leader of the Hurst group. So this is J. Willis Hurst, literally the father of cardiology, and he came from Emory. And so here's some pictures of him in the early days. His autograph for Karen Newell, who will be good at what she wants to be. That is great advice. Whatever you want to be, you'll be great at it. I mean, that's really cool. And I think he kind of knew I had a medical thing. Well, obviously he knew I had a medical thing, but he might have known that I had a little music thing going on. And I think that this is very good, a great thing. He didn't say in medicine. He just said, you'll be good at what you want to be. Yeah. Wisdom, all these guys are just know right what to say and how to say it and when to say it. So here's a picture of me in his office. Look at all these books. In fact, he's got his hand on that book, which is his book. Look how thick that thing is. This was a ways back. You can see my hair was a little bit lighter, but I used to see him all the time in the elevator. His office was in the building where my office was, and I would see him almost every day. And he was at this point retired, but he still came in every day early. And he, of course, has this conference room named after him. He's a legend at Emory and in the medical world. And I would see him in the elevator, and he was a little hard of hearing. So it was sort of funny. Our conversations only lasted about 30 seconds, but he didn't always hear what I was saying. And it was funny to think what he thought I said. And I would just sometimes have to chuckle. I didn't keep pressing it and keep repeating it over. I would just, we would have this little interaction. But it was funny because he didn't always hear it the way that, kind of like my mom and I, we have some conversations where she'll, what she thinks I said is so different than what I said. And instead of correcting her a million times, I just kind of, we just go along with it, and it just makes the conversation a lot more enriched, So J. Willis Hurst, no longer with us, but a legend at Emory. Moving on to a couple of just local people that were my homies, So this was a group that I performed with a lot in Atlanta, and I still kind of am Facebook friends with these guys, and every so often something will pop up in our memories and somebody will post something. But, this was a band that we played a lot of hotels in Atlanta and a lot of weddings and a lot of really fun events, but just a great group of people. And, the bass player here, he played with he made an entire career playing in the military. So he played I believe it was the Air Force band, and so he went all over the place. And he's still around. He's now he was in Texas for a while. Now I think he's in Nebraska, and so Arthur Turner here still playing in Atlanta all over the place. George Price also looks a little bit different. He's got a big white beard, and he plays amazing guitar, and he dresses up like Santa Claus at Christmas time, and so he's real popular playing gigs looking like Santa Claus because he does look like Santa Claus. His beard's gotten real white, and really great sort of rock player, and gosh, Octavia Jones is just amazing. She's the Al Jarreau, female Al Jarreau, can just rock R&B, and she could work the crowd and get people excited. And so just a fun group of people. I mean, John here was great at popping the bass, and so whenever we'd play some kind of 70s disco thing, he was all over that. So really versatile group. And then over here, mostly the same group, a little bit different singer here. And so just, and we would interchange people, but these were my first call people. A lot of times I would get the gig, and then I would call whoever, and then if I couldn't get them, I'd have my second call or third call or whatever. So people could just show up to the gig, and we didn't really have to rehearse much. And I did not name this. Octavia named us because somebody said, "What are you guys called?" And she's just like, "Karen Newell and Friends." And I was just like, "You're right. That's pretty much a great name for us because it was pretty much me and my group of people, whoever I happened to have, and it was not always the same people." So a really fun event for me was this particular gig. This was years ago now, but this was one of the times where my medical world and musical world got to come together. So I got to play the, PA conference would move around the country. And one year only, it was in Atlanta, and it was this year. And I kind of told people knew that I played in Atlanta, and they said, "Hey, would your band want to play for some of the, the dinner?" We had a dinner of 1,000 people. It was like a really fancy dinner. And I was like, "Heck yeah, we would." And well, we ended up playing 3 gigs. We played the silent auction, which was like a little trio. We played another function. It was like the president's reception. So I just went from gig to gig to gig, and it was my people. We got pretty good salary for playing these gigs because they were big gigs at big hotels with lots of people. And but it wasn't about that. It was about getting to play for all my friends, because I would look out in the dance floor, and these are all my colleagues that I've known, my whole life. PAs from all over the country, that I've, known. It's a small group of people. There's only, gosh, well, there's more of us now, but back then there weren't that many PAs. There weren't that many PA educators, and a lot of former students were there. And so, wow, it was just a fun event to get to play and have, my medical and my musical world, coalesce, because that didn't happen very much. In fact, I kept it a secret for a long, long time. And then I realized it was not something to kind of keep secret. Like people thought it was kind of really cool and stuff, Like my kids that I taught drum lessons to didn't even know I had a day job. They thought I was a drummer, but I would show up with scrubs on. So they had to just wonder, like, she just likes scrubs, I guess. Because I was always coming from Grady, and I would go to the music store and I'd have scrubs on. And they had no idea I'd just been, working a trauma patient an hour earlier. And then vice versa, my medical people kind of knew I did some stuff on the side, but they had no idea. I was teaching 30 students and had a wait list and was in 2 music stores and playing weddings. And, they just thought I was at home reading journal articles and reading about ankle fractures, and they had no idea. So it's just kind of interesting how my life, I had 2 lives, and now I finally get to kind of have one. And I kind of did my medical job, so I'm kind of getting to do the music thing exclusively, which is amazing at this stage of the game to get to do that. So here's just another group. I didn't take a lot of pictures because it was work. Like I played everywhere with everybody, but I never we didn't have cell phones, we never thought to take a picture. So I have no pictures of anything. So these are just the few that I did have. This was a group that was in Colorado right around 90, 92, right in there. And we were playing a bunch of festivals, the Budweiser festivals. We would play ski resorts and we'd get to spend the night, and it was all you can eat. And you got paid, but it was just fun. You go to a ski resort, they put you up for the night, they give you some money, they feed you, you get beer to drink and everything. And so, anyway, here was just us at a ski thing. And there was another group I performed with. I had different people, and some of the people are the same. And again, they were intermingled. Like it was just a group of people that were all musicians, and whoever got the gig you'd get called to their gigs, or they'd get called to your gigs, or whatever. So this particular group was called Nothing Fancy, and played a lot of weddings and stuff with them. So that was fun. So this was fun because I finally have been going through photos, and I have very few pictures of me early on because we just didn't take pictures of that sort of thing. These there's one of my blue sparkle set, the one I've told you the story about how my dad went out and said, go help your mother with the groceries, and there they were in the trunk. So here's me at like a Sons of Italy. I'm wearing my Italian flag, and I'm probably playing Feliz Navidad, which is not even Italian, but it was the Christmas concert or whatever it was, Christmas party. And I was playing, I would bring a stereo and crank it really loud and play along with the music. Look at this. You can see this was before the days where you had decent, muffling material. This is a piece of cloth, and this is what we would do. Get a pillowcase, rip it into shreds, put it underneath the head. I should have cut it so it wasn't hanging out. It's sort of tacky. But you can see, even back then I was, at this age, doing this stuff, taking my drums apart and tweaking them. And that's what my drum teacher told me to do. Take a pillowcase, rip it into strips. Don't put it right in the middle. Put it off to the side, and it'll help your drums not be so ringy. Well, they since now have O-rings you can buy and, put them on there. It's magic. Here's my Yamaha set I bought in about 1990. I still have them. This is a Steve Gadd-ish set. He plays a set exactly like it. Here's my green drums. I kind of moved them and put them together. Notice the cement walls. This was my house, my first house that I built a studio, and it was a 3-room studio. And this is me, like probably on the first day we moved in, setting them up in the, trying to put a little backdrop back here. But it was a cement room with nothing. But golly, I was just so happy that I could just set this up and play away. I had my PA system here cranked up, like no wonder I'm deaf. So that was just kind of a fun picture for me. Here's me at CSU at a recital with my green drums again. Here's my buddy Kerry Kolastny. We played Troopers together. Here was, I was dressing crazy back then. This was us at our senior recital. We were the only ones at our senior recital to get to wear crazy clothes because you were supposed to wear black tie stuff. And they let us do whatever. And we this is where we played a million instruments. There's hundreds of instruments in this song that we created that I sent to you guys a while back that is the last 20 minutes long. But these are some of the best days of my life. And, very few pictures of, a handful I have of this kind of thing. We're all almost ready to end. I think I can do a couple more because there's only a couple more. Well, we might have to stop. We'll do a couple more. So I played in a German band in Atlanta I don't remember, first Friday of the month or whatever it was. And, this gentleman played accordion, and this gentleman his name was Walter, and Walter played about 9 different things, one of which was 2 trumpets at once. So he'd have 2 trumpets, and he'd be playing not exactly the same thing, different things, like the lead trumpet and the accompanied trumpet. And he would start marching around the room. Well, everybody was in their dirndl here. They're in traditional German outfits because this was the German club, and everybody liked to get together and have German food and dance to their native songs. And not only just German, but we had Austrian people there, and we had half of Europe. Anybody who was European from these areas who lived in Atlanta came to these things. And I learned how to play polkas. And polkas are not easy. You got to play fast, donsh, 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 donsh. And then it would get faster. And then Walter would be like, hamming up the crowd and getting them to play faster. And so it was a great experience. All musical experiences can be useful. And so we were a trio, but Walter played everything: saxophone, clarinet, flute, and guitar, banjo. He would just bring all this stuff. And so much fun to play with these guys. And I didn't know any of these songs. I didn't know what we were playing. I just knew get going and hang on for the ride. But it was a great experience to be able to do that. Here was a group more recently that was a jazz group, all women, and we got to play jazz around town. We got to play for the Martin Luther King Center that opened up on the opening night of that center. It was a really nice. We were background music. We weren't performing. We were just supposed to play, and people were mingling and eating and drinking and so on. So I think, well, I'll see. We got another maybe minute. We'll do another one. The Corvettes. So got to play with them in 2002. Here's my tenors. These weren't as heavy as normal tenors. These are kind of a little bit more shallow. So, but they still were heavy enough. And so it was really cool because all of my drum corps have been 20 years apart. I played Troopers in 82. I played Corvettes, which is a senior corps, in 2002. And then this last summer in 2022, 20 years later again, I got to play with Troopers Legacy Corps. So about every 20 years. So golly, in 20 years from now, I hope I'm still being able to play some tenors. I don't know. So here's actually Troopers 82. Here's the original Troopers, and here's our drums were a lot higher back then. We played them a lot higher. And then here's this past summer the drums that we used, and I hope to play with them this summer. I'm going to be playing, I hope, rope drum, which is a drum, a very traditional drum. It's a snare drum, so I'm learning traditional grip, and we'll see how that goes. Um, and so that'll be really exciting to be able to play a drum that's held together by a rope, and it's usually got a painting on it. And so I think with that, we will end. Any questions? I know I just ramble on.
I want to know if Otto Werner ever made you play drums in his class.
He did.
Oh,
He would have
wow.
because he was a drummer, and he would come down and demonstrate stuff. And he many times would put me on the spot, and I'd have to go down and play conga with him or play drums while he played conga, or he would quiz me about stuff. So I had to pretty much pay attention because I did not want to look like a fool in front of 600 people. And so, but we always had a lot of fun. It was a fun class. And so even if I didn't know the answer, I could say something that was funny, and we would, I could get out of it. That was a good experience about how not to look, shell shocked, but to be able to just like come up with a reasonable answer, I guess. But it was a lot. I tell you, every single week he would find something, and I would try to sit in different places. Like maybe he won't see me this week, but he would always see me. Well, and he didn't do it to just me. He would do it to anybody in the marching band who happened to be there. So if you were a trumpet player, it wasn't just me. I happened to be the drummer, and he was a drummer, so he picked on me an awful lot. But he picked on, if you were a trumpet player, a flute player, a clarinet, he knew you in marching band, he was going to call upon you at some point for something. And but it was all in good fun. So
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
right. I think we
Okay.
better end. I will look up those questions and we'll answer them next week. Thanks for being here, everybody. Thank you, Valerie. If you could send me today's Zoom link. I know I keep pestering you, but I do have people who actually like to watch them later. So I hope you have a great weekend, everybody, and we'll see you next week. Bye bye.